Hello everybody and welcome back to part 3 of this inventory system tutorial. Hopefully you have followed us on part 1 and part 2 and uh, this part 3 will start taking a look at the actual inventory system part. So let's go into it. Here you see what we have so far. We have a guy running around picking up items. We haven't drawn the sprite for the inventory yet, so let's start by doing that. We want a sprite 32 times 32. And let's edit. Let's just fill it with medium gray color. And also let's make a shadow around it with a dark gray. On this side and a lighter gray on this side. And let's give it a name. Let's call it Sprite Slot. And now he's gonna build a script to set up an inventory. So let's go to scripts here, create a new script. And let's call it, we will call it script for create script create inventory. Let's call it that. And now, and let's move this part. So actually, we should set up some parameters. If you don't know how to do that, no, let's not worry about that part. Let's just dive into the actual code. We want to give some, we want to bring some variables into the script, and we want position X, we want position Y, and we want the number of rows, and we want the number of columns. Like this. And to hold the items in the inventory, we want to use an ts grid create. And we want it to be rows times columns. That's the size of it, and the height. How many? We just want one for holding the item, and we want one for holding the number of items, so 2. This is the size we are calculating here, and this is how many variables each slot can hold. So first we need to clear the grid. And we want to clear all to 0, and the name of the grid is inventory or inv, and we want to set all to 0. And we need some variables to store information about which slot we are on, and actually I don't need to do this. Yes, I do. We have already used no, forget about that, but we need to know what row we are on and what column we are on. We start by setting those to 0, and now we want to loop through all the slots to set some information about them. Start counting at 0, and if t is greater than columns, we are done counting. That's the loop. And while row is less than rows, we're gonna set up a new instance. Instance create layer, and I think we're gonna first let's place it, and we're gonna place it at pos x, and we wanna add rows times 32 to position it. You will see later, so just wait. And column times 32. This is just to place the inventory on the screen, and we're gonna make a new layer for that, and we call it layer slots. And the object we want to place there is the object slot, which we haven't made yet, so we have a few things we need to set up soon. And also we want to, let's make the layer and rename it to slots, and we want to make sure that the inventory and the slots we're going to see here soon is above other things in the game. So let's call it here, place it here, and go back to the, let's just create the object also. Let's not call it slots, but slot, because it's holding only one slot. Yeah, now you can see this one is red, and also we have a layer for. So, and also we want to give some information to the slot, and we wanna give it an ID. So this is the first, or is zero, slot 0, and the first time in this loop, and yeah, we will add one to it down here. So slot. So first time this will be 0 and 1, 2, and so on. So, and also we want to set, we want the slot to know what inventory. It belongs to. So we need to add these two variables to the slot, but we're going to do that later. But we want the slot to know what inventory it is a part of. So it's inventory, because yeah, this is the DS grid we call the inventory. And also we need to, if we change a room in the game, we don't want the inventory, the player inventory, to change. So we want to make the object persistent, and we can do it by set it to true, persistent to true, and we also need to add one to roll every time. And also when we have run through one row and we have more than one columns, we need to reset row to 0. And we want to add one to column. Oh, we can just do it like this. Yes. And when everything is set up, we want to return back the inventory we just created. Like this. Hopefully this is all we need. And yeah, I think this looks good, so let's continue. We need to set up 2 variables on the slot. So let's bring those over here and in the create. Slot ID we just set to 0, and also the grid we can set. Oops. Grid we can set to 0. So what else do we need for the slot? The slot need to know what object or item it is holding. So just set an item for that, or we could now set it to item none, but let's keep it to 0. Amount to 0. This means for now the slot is empty. And we want to draw the item the slot is holding. Did we put... let's continue. Let's... in a draw event, we need to draw the sprite. Let's set that actually. We made a slot in the beginning of this episode, so that's the graphic. And the way the GameMaker works is as soon as you have a draw event in your code, it will not draw the sprite unless you use draw self. So the first thing we do is to draw the sprite of the slot object. Next thing is we want to draw the sprite. Draw the sprite slot is holding. So we can just use the sprite for that, and position X and Y of the slot. And that wasn't an X. And we want to draw the number. With text, we want to draw the amount. Let's just move it a little bit to the right, and let's draw the text underneath the slot. So I think if we add 16, we should be good. Or maybe 18. Let's try 16. And the amount. Do we have to add string here? I don't think so. Yes, that should be it for the let me think a little bit here. So in the setup, let's create an inventory. Let's call it, let's make it a global, because usually we want to be able to do changes to the inventory from every part of the game. So let's call it player inventory. And now we're going to use the script to set it up. Script create inventory. It asks for position X, Y, rows and columns, as we made a script. Yeah. We want it at, let's put it at the center of the screen, which is, yeah, we could use screen size, but let's just use the size of the screen. Divide by 2 to get to the center, and we want to, yeah, let's take away 16 for a half slot, and also depending on the size, let's like make it 8. The size of the inventory, 8 width, and so half of 8 is 4 times 32 is 128. So let's subtract that 2, and same with width. 268 minus, let's move it up 128 too. And the size of the grid we're gonna make is, let's set it to 8 by 2. That should be a decent inventory for the player. Okay, we have an error, and why is that? Is that an expected syntax error? Yeah. This one just says never used, so let's play and see what will happen. I'm not sure it's working yet. Hopefully we can see the inventory on the screen, but yes, we did. 1 second. That didn't look like much in the center of the screen, but let's not worry about that. So we can still pick up items. We can see the inventory. We can see how many items in them, but the items don't get moved from the inventory over to the script, or from the pickup into the inventory. So let's make a script for that. Let's do it in this episode. We're gonna add another script. Script. We call it SCR for script, and add item. And in here we wanna bring in some variables, and we want to bring in the ID of the inventory. The ID of the item we are trying to add to the inventory. We want to add the amount, how many of the item, and also what inventory we are working on. And now we will we want to iterate through the slots in the inventory to see if we have space for the item. So let's start at 0 and while slot is less than inventory we need to note the width of the inventory, so let's get that first. Inventory width equals this grid width, and we are working on the inventory we get passed in from here. So now we can use inventory width here. Now we want to check if the slot is let's first check if it's holding the same item as we want to add to the inventory. So if inventory and we want to check the slot in inventory, and now we are talking to the DS grid. So at slot position, and we check in the item, what item it is. It's the 0 position in the DS grid. And we want to check if it's the same as the one we passed in. We passed in IID up here. And if it is the same, we can add it to that slot. Inventory. Let me think. We already have the right item in that inventory, so we just need to add to the amount. And what we want to add is the amount. Sorry. Like this. And also we want to tell the object or the script or whatever which use this function that we was able to add the item to the inventory. When we have done that, we can exit from the script too. So now we checked for the first slot. We gonna add one to the slot and try again until we have iterated through all of the slots. And also, let's do that now. We can also this one checks if we already have that item in the inventory already, and if we have, we want to add the item or just the amount to that slot. But if we don't have the item in the slot, we want to just add it into the inventory if we have empty space. So let's start over. Set slot to 0. And let's copy some of the code here. I think we just copy it all. Why isn't this yellow? I don't get it. Slot. I think we see an error message for that later, but let's just leave it. And now we want to check if the slot is empty. So now we can just call it items, which is the numerator we made, and we call the first slot for none, so that means empty. If it's empty, we need to add both why is my variables here turning? Because we have an error up here. Okay, I get it. And also here. That looks better. If it's empty, we want to not with inventory. And now we want to set the item at the slot, and the item we are holding is what will be passed in up here, so IID. And we was able to pass in an item again, and so we return true and exit. If we are not able to, let's say the inventory is full already, we cannot add another item to it. We need to return false. I cannot write like this. Okay. We can just clean this. What else? We already have the. Now we can, on the items, when they are picked up, we can try to use the add item script to add it to the inventory, player's inventory. So instead of just destroying the instance, we want first to try to remember screen add item. We can use it if in an if statement, because it's returning either true or false. And item variable is holding the item or the item is, like heart or apple and when we pick up only one item at a time, and we gonna try to add it to the player in inventory, so global, which we set up in the setup like this. So if we are able to add the item to the inventory, we can destroy it. We have some problems here. Yes. Let's try. Okay, here is our guy. Let's try pick up a heart. It's gone, but not added to the inventory. Why is that? We cannot see it in the inventory. I feel like this part is okay. Did we set up the inventory? This part should be okay. This part. Should be okay. Actually, I think we do it like this. I'm not sure what the error is here now, so I will figure that out until the next part 4 of this tutorial, and I will explain to you. I will explain it to you then, and yeah, we will finish up this tutorial in part 4. So hope I see you then. Bye for now. Thank you for watching, and yeah, hope to see you in the next part.